of gain inciting it, she ready fair bestows. And o'er her bar, and o'er her bar, exits and all her bar exits, and o'er her bar exits.
Hey everyone, Anthony Cheney Guzmán of the Olga Iglesias Project, and today I am located right in front of the Atlantic Ocean in El Parque del Indio in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm going to be interviewing Justino Díaz, one of the major operatic voices ever to come out of the island of Puerto Rico. We're going to be talking about his times in the 20th century classical music heritage of Puerto Rico and exclusively about his experiences collaborating with Olga Iglesias, who just happens to be my grandmother and the namesake of the Olga Iglesias Project. I hope you enjoy. Hey Justino, how are you?
Good morning and welcome back to Puerto Rico.
I'm excited to be back.
Lovely day here close to the beach.
I was very curious to understand more about your relationship with Olga Iglesias, obviously, the namesake for my project here, my grandmother. Do you remember when you met Olga?
I'm sure I must have met her before the Casals Festival. She was a very well-known singer. She had her own television program.
Did you ever see that program yourself?
I did. I certainly did. And I remember her theme song. And she sang it so beautifully. You are always in my heart, even though you're far away. And her program opened like that. And she was one of those great beauties on television back then. Oh, great.
And you sang with her a couple times.
Oh, after that, of course, mainly in the Casals Festival.
Right.
The Casals Festival woke an interest, yes. And things began, opera companies and concert series, etc., etc. But the real important world-class music happened in the Casals Festival.
I have footage of you from 1964 here in the Casals Festival.
Oh, yes.
When you sang with Olga doing Haydn's Creation.
The Creation, yes. That was a very important step in my career. I met Casals very close to where your parents lived.
Punta Las Marías?
Punta Las Marías.
Yeah.
And that's where Casals lived, and all our rehearsals for the quartet happened there.
Yeah, that was the house he lived in before he went to Rio Piedras, when he went to
Monterrey.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And of course there I met Rudolf Serkin,
Yeah.
I met Schneider, Rubinstein, Arthur Rubinstein, so many famous musicians that used to take part in the Casals Festival. So I, at that early age, to be baptized in Puerto Rico, singing under the baton of Pablo Casals, both Olga and I were, wow, this is a very, we have to remember this. This is not going to come back. And we were all aware of that special moment. We all were given the opportunity to take part in.
It's beautiful. And working with Olga as a singer, was there anything that she did regarding her instrument that was unique, or just the way perhaps that she sung?
Olga I never heard her speak about her voice. She spoke through her singing. That's all she had to do, was open that voice, that mouth, and out came the most beautiful soprano voice. And of course, Casals saw that too, and he fell in love with that voice. It was funny because Olga was a friend of Marta Casals,
Right.
who was later to marry Don Pablo.
Yeah.
So there was a closeness there. And Casals sort of like took us under his wing.
He sure did.
Because we followed all of his advice and observations, musical observations, vocal observations. You know, I mean, we're talking about a man who had met Brahms and Camille Saint-Saëns.
Justino, I wanted to ask you about the singing of that time. If there was any particular school of singing here in Puerto Rico due to the vocal talents that the island had?
We were all aware of the correct way of singing because we had, in our immediate past, we had Antonio Paoli, who had an enormous career all over the world, singing in all the great theaters of the world. And he happened to be also Olga Iglesias, one of her first teachers.
Yeah, she was a high school student.
So she had the advantage of listening to his words of wisdom. That is very much appreciated by conductors, as indeed it was by Maestro Pablo Casals. I sang a lot with him. I did a lot of things with him, and so did Olga. And in that sense, you could tell that he was very approving of our singing. And it was a pleasure. And we took to it. I'm happy to say, both Olga and I took to it like a fish takes to water.
You two were already involved in the musical scene in Puerto Rico even before the Casals Festival.
Yes.
You were mentored or took under the wing by San Román. Chuchu San Román.
Of course, he was like the godfather to all of us Puerto Ricans.
Including Olga. He worked a lot with Olga.
Absolutely, yeah. He felt very much, you know, after having been the main piano player for the Boston Symphony for decades and decades. Of course, he was very much respected, and he had played concert repertoire, recital repertoire all over the world.
And he went to the New England Conservatory.
He went to the
just like you did.
That's what I did. And a lot of us Puerto Ricans did the same thing, because I guess because we felt that was the custom, that was the thing to do, that was the school to go to. And I must say, all of us had wonderful careers.
So, speaking of venues in the United States, the Met, I know obviously that played a big role in your life.
Well, I landed there very early. I guess they needed somebody like me, and somebody who had potential. That's what they always talk about when they hear a young singer.
And in 1966, you did Antony and Cleopatra.
Yes, that we opened.
Yes.
With Leontyne Price and I, we were Antony and Cleopatra. That was wonderful for somebody so young as myself. But all modesty apart, I was singing very well back in those years. And Leontyne, of course, was at the top.
And if I could make an observation, you two were also minorities in the 60s.
Yeah, you might ask me, you think that played a role in them choosing us? I really don't think so. I think that was a total accident.
It didn't even cross your mind.
No, not at all, not at all.
I see. Yeah.
Everybody spoke English, and more than important than the language of the vernacular, we spoke music. And music is a great equalizer. And the reason I was accepted, as she was accepted, was because of music.
In Puerto Rico, there was, of course, this amazing movement of classical music. But where did we go wrong as a country in not being able to continue that tradition?
Classical music, like all art forms, requires money. There has never been participation by the government at all.
What do we have to do to see more Puerto Ricans take the stage and have these careers that we've seen?
Well, now it takes a lot of energy, a lot of money to do stuff and bring things to Puerto Rico, hire people from the mainland or from Europe. Mind you, we have had people all during these years, but it's not something that you would call, you know, New York or Boston or London.
The golden days of the Casals festivals in the 60s.
Or even that.
Yeah.
Or even that, yeah.
Justino, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me regarding...
It was my pleasure entirely. You brought back memories that are very dear to me, very dear to me.
I feel honored, really, that we've had the chance to chat.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, because of Olga Iglesias and her legacy, I learned so much about your life through her career and the things she left behind. So I want to thank you again.
You're always welcome here.
Gracias.
Et sanctum nomen eius, et sanctum nomen, et sanctum nomen eius, sanctum nomen eius, sanctum nomen eius, et sanctum nomen eius. Quia fecit mihi magna qui potens est, et sanctum nomen